Okay, welcome to all San Diego Chamber of Commerce members and guests to this webinar session. We are going to have some fun today. Many thanks to Lisa, who is on maternity leave, as I just mentioned, Karen and Katie for providing ongoing support for my group to continue to do that. With that said, goodbye 2020, right? I am optimistic that the market conditions for small business will improve this year in 2020. That's not just hype, I believe it. Nonetheless, I encourage all chamber members to ask friends, families, partners, clients, customers, and any business owners, join your local chamber of commerce. The success of small business is all of our collective responsibility. Today, we're going to be taking on improving your small business website with design thinking. This session will be 1 hour in duration with 50 minutes of lecture, including interactive polling questions like those ethical dilemmas I'm known for throwing out at you guys. Let's just start overall. At the end, we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A. Or while we're going through it, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll probably interact and react to your comments real time. Great website design is an important topic to small business owners as your website promotes your business 24/7. Even your best employee needs to sleep, right? So website's very important. So let's talk through some best practices that will enhance the financial results of your small business. Now, hopefully this isn't your first time joining our webinar sessions. We're actually fortunate enough to be hosting our 4th for the San Diego Chamber. And as a quick personal introduction to myself, I personally go by Doug, just Doug. Nothing as formal as Douglas Younger III. I'm a husband, a father with 3 toddlers. I'm a sci-fi novel enthusiast, gamer, and overall, I'd say I have a funny sense of humor. I don't take myself very seriously. And at times I can be self-deprecating, which hopefully you'll find very interesting for this technical related session. So, I'll be definitely covering a lot of topics, but let's first start with my context of myself. Professionally, I've traveled over 20 years in marketing, and I have over 1 million miles on over 40 countries of experience in my previous corporate life, which I mentioned earlier that my friend Thomas Lindstrom has joined this one today. I also have a commitment to lifelong learning. A lot of you don't know, I'm also an executive MBA instructor, which will be starting 2 courses at the University of California next month in February. Related to this topic, I'd say, actually, guilty as charged, I'm not a web developer. Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with aptitude in C++ or Java programming. I'm so jealous of some of those web developers that are probably even on this session. But, here's my comment about web design. If you thought math was hard, good web design is worse. In my opinion, great web design is about going beyond programming skills. And in fact, it's a team effort. A culture for many stakeholders, including marketers, designers, writers, and developers. In my corporate life, I've had the privilege of having great partnership with master web developers. And as a small business owner, I even have 4 different web developers that work for me on my team. Maybe it's the inner geek in me. I like to hang out with really smart people smarter than myself. But the truth is, as a small business leader, please make the assumption that building a great website is gonna be hard fought, hard earned, and hard won. More on that later, but after this session, I'm very excited to continue the discussion with you on design, social media, personal reinvention of your business online, and feel free to reach out to me on my social media handles or the social media channel of choice for you, or reach out via email. So, I became a business owner like you just last year, actually. I'm the founder and CEO of 3 Steps Forward, a technology-forward marketing company with full-service consulting and creative focused on helping early-stage startups and entrepreneurs succeed. Why did I do this? In the heart of the pandemic, start my own company. A lot of you don't know the origin of my company comes from a very personal place. My late father, who committed 30 years as a financial planner, serviced the small business community of Cleveland, Ohio. Despite having offers to leverage his skills abroad, like I did, he believed in the greatness of fighting for the little guy and never giving up. And as you can imagine, that left quite an impression with me, right? So I incorporated and I got to work powered by personal belief that helping small business would be our positive societal cause and our purpose as a company to make the world a better place. Wow, Doug, you're getting pretty personal, right? Well, having just celebrated our 1-year anniversary of me bootstrapping 100% of this business venture with my corporate winnings with 3 kids, right? Like, yikes, Doug. In our maiden voyage, we've achieved over 20 clients. We've grown to over 30 employees, some full-time, some subcontractors. We're actually small business certified by the state of California, Better Business Bureau accredited. Actually, we're a minority business enterprise certified as well. And most importantly, we're refusing to give in to doubt or disbelief. In all seriousness, kudos to every last one of you that are on this call, that are small business owners that have survived the pandemic. You are special and you should be commended for your work going forward, and we're going to move forward together. The learning objectives of this session include the challenges and goals working toward a good website for small business and how you're going to get organized, how to take a more human-centric approach to your website, getting into the minds of your customer, whoever that might be, that there's a correlation between your customer buying cycle and the company's sales cycle and your web development cycle, meaning it's going to take more than just your web developer to make your website great. What is the formula and composition of your website? You may be missing 1 or 2 key elements. And as usual with me, advanced technologies, you can expect that, right? Like recommendations on just cool stuff that you can use and apply to your small business website. We'll go through operational improvements for managing one of my favorites, how to get hacked like a champ, and how to resolve issues. Just saying, it's going to happen. And lastly, the infamous interactive polling, particularly the brain-teasing ethical dilemmas. I should also mention, you'll notice books, like you can see here, this website branding for small businesses, YouTube videos, and suggestions that will appear either in the reference section on the bottom right or business insights on the sections on the left. You know, consider these my love letters to you so that after this session, you can practice some self-learning and from some truly amazing creators. Now, let's get down to business right out the gate, okay? So to kick things off, interactive polling question number 1. Doug, what is all this design thinking? I mean, stop using these fancy terms, right? Just say what you mean, Doug. So let's first start off. What does everybody think of design thinking? And Katie, do you mind if you could launch the first interactive polling question? Is it A, IDEO, B, Stanford Design School, C, AI-centered design for building websites? Everything can be AI or botted away. Human-centric design for building websites, hint, hint. Or E, a popular framework for building better products. Or is it just Doug's cliched term for talking about problems and not solving them? Feel free, you can't answer incorrectly, just choose what you want. I'm gonna go with F. Oh, you have to vote on all of them. I see this. So why don't you do this? We will go through each question and then we'll run the poll at the very end so that you can answer that. So Katie, just shut the poll down and maybe write down somewhere, or you can put it in the chat right now, what your answer to this would be, okay? And then we'll come back and we'll answer all the questions at the end, all right? So the Interaction Design Foundation actually defines design thinking as a methodology that provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. Understanding the human needs involved and reframing the problem is actually in a more human-centric way is actually what we're talking about, design thinking. This is a powerful state of mind concept for building your small business website. So let's talk about a real example. What you guys don't know is actually I love oysters. I buy them by the crate from a place called Bodega Bay Oyster Company. I love those guys. So let's talk about a hypothetical example of content creation with design thinking in mind. So Bodega Bay, let's hypothetically say they want to make a change to their brand image and their website, and they want to change their image and description text. Option 1 on the left, you can see, is the simplistic approach. Keep it simple, stupid. We don't have a big marketing budget, so just show our product with the text in caps and write oysters, exclamation point. The Instagram generation and the Gen I group will like that, although they don't really buy oysters, right? So this is a real strategy many use in billboard advertising and in some sectors. It's a product delivered approach. It's emotive. An oyster lover like me will see the oysters and freak out and click it. But how many people out there are like me? And the impact, as you see, is seeing the image, not necessarily text or anything like that. So it may not be so good for SEO to go this way. Next is the human-centric approach with design thinking in mind. First of all, let's assume beyond people just liking oysters, there's a group out there that wants to enjoy good health, and they like oysters, or fish as another category. So eat fish or eat oysters and enjoy good health. This is a more value delivered approach, making a rational, clear argument that not only people like oysters, but they also want to be in good health. And let's say this person clearly is of good health and doing well. So there's 2 takeaways for your small business in thinking about your website and how to represent yourself. 1, option 2 is playing around in the area you need to go. It's not just about showing your services on your website. It's about showing the value of your services to real human beings so they can see themselves and accomplish their goals with your service or product. The second takeaway of option 2 is that you're more likely to be successful in search as you're expanding your keyword criteria to adding complementary interests and topics for intended customers, with going beyond just an oyster, but actually addressing the fact of audiences that 1, have good health, 2, like oysters, and 3, probably just overall, they like both. They want to do both. So this is an important learning as context of design thinking. That last example illustrates an important point as well. Web development is hard frickin' work, right? Because it combines writing ability, visualization skills, technical operational or applications such as search or SEO, and a strong understanding of oneself, services and brand, and customers, and the value created between your product and your customer. Secondly, good site design balances a variety of activities, such as navigation, security, performance, user experience. My personal preference is that as a business owner, I prefer great search, indexability from SEO compared to an amazing user experience or, just cool looks. You see, the risk reward of SEO ensures new customers can find you. So the prettiest website isn't always the most utilized website. And yes, I acknowledge great search without substance can lead to a high bounce rate, meaning somebody went to your site with the greatest of expectations and it looks cool, but they didn't find content that made sense for them. So then they left, which would count as a bounce, okay? So at the end of the day, as a small business owner, you want a ticket to win the great game. Focus on SEO is my, business insight for you. Next, let's take the first step on the pathway to a great and better website is by asking your web developer a reasonable, objective goal. If you go to them and just say, hey, improve my website, you'll drive your web developer crazy. They'll say, how? Like, in what way do you want to make it better? Well, they'll have, in my opinion, bottom line is that your business, your story, your money, okay? So you need to think a little bit more about what your goals are. I personally tend to use what's called the OGSM framework, or the objectives, goals, strategies, and measures. It's actually founded by Japanese auto manufacturers that also popularized Six Sigma and Lean as principles. It gives you a way to structure your ideas, okay? So one, you need to decide for your new, hypothetical, better website. Do you want to maintain your core customers or grow new customers or both? Two, you want to improve in a specific measure, such as traffic per day or time on site, or I want more mobile users. And you want what's called a key performance indicator of each. Three, you want to develop strategies leveraging your web developer's strengths. So it'll be, can the web developer help you with visual storytelling, brand, improving your written storytelling, which would be your value proposition, or improve your back-end performance, like I was mentioning about SEO. Lastly, you want to focus on measures. You need to agree up front. Here's the deliverables. I want a brand book so that we can have some more visuals. I want a message map so we can talk more like in the customer's language, or I want, an audit of my existing platform to establish a baseline. Bottom line, as a business owner, be clear on what you're asking for when you say, I want a better website. Some of you may say, duh, Doug. Of course I know that. Okay, now the second major point on your way to a better website is actually understanding that a designed, thought out website is a constant iterating process of learning and applying. You and your web developer can't get it right the first time. There's no perfect website, okay? As it should be evolving and shifting over time. So you don't want just when you say, oh, we got a new website or we updated the website. Actually, you want to be planning to optimize based on your budgets. You want to constantly be shifting, starting with a plan, which I said, which is this OGSM. You want to go into a cycle of one, learning, perform a baseline audit, and execute lessons learned on your existing site iteratively. Next, you want to get into the process of creation, which is the fun part. This is the part everybody jumps to. Take on visual and written storytelling and improve backend processes. 4, testing. Please start your new website in staging. Show your sales team, show even your customers before you go live. You don't want any surprises there, okay? 5, monitoring. You got to make sure you got listening systems set up, okay? And then you want to rebaseline, learn, and repeat this process. You keep repeating this iteratively until you get confident to a level that you can do what's called scaling, which means for you, delegate to some other people, build the team, have them keep going through the wheel, and you put somebody in charge of it, and you go off and do your job and go grow your business in some other way. So, important thing here, try to rethink the way you're doing things. So if you launch your new website last quarter, that's just the wrong frame of reference. You should be thinking, what are we going to do to launch the next update for our website coming up? That's how you got to think about it, okay? Next, let's focus on a very important lesson. It's not about you, okay? It's your customer's website, not your personal website. Let me be clear. It's not about you. And look, small business owners have to be confident. You have to be proud. You're going to get punched hard. I get it. But this is really about making a site that's pro customer. So the frame of reference you need to take is 99% of your website content should be written from the frame of reference of your customer, how they talk and how they think. This is going to help you a lot in SEO because the terms they use to find your website is what they know, not what you know. 1% of your website should be from your frame of reference, primarily about us, your mission, your vision. This is still important as your cause or goals can lead to positive tonality from your customer, but it's not how they actually find you, okay? Here are a few do's and don'ts. Okay, Please use 6th grade reading level and don't use industry jargon. Okay, 1, it's very important. Always confirm font legibility and don't use dense text. Okay, stock photography should represent the customer demographics or people that buy from you. And don't use excessive pop-ups because that's just annoying. Text descriptions should match your SEO key terms. Don't have sloppy navigation control or people get lost. Perform mobile optimization as more people use phones and screen time increases due to the pandemic. And most certainly, don't list actual pricing unless it's industry appropriate. This restricts your ability on price negotiation, and your salespeople probably won't like that at all. Okay. Next, moving on. This is one of my favorites here. Okay. I'm about to reinforce this concept that web development is constantly iterating and evolving in this revelation that your company's selling cycle, and what I'm referring to there is qualifying your leads, nurturing your leads, presenting your offer, all of these things. It's constantly changing. And the reason that your company's sales cycle changes is because your customers' buying cycles also changing. Their tastes are changing. Their awareness is changing. Their purchasing power is changing. So listen, it's logical to consider that your web development cycle should also be constantly changing as a reflection of both your customer and your salespeople are changing. So as a small business owner, get involved in the web development cycle and make sure inputs include your sales teams and your customers' voices. It's easy to get caught up in design, layout, and development. Trust me, I'm an expressive guy. I want the website to be cool. But if you're not listening to what's really happening, okay, then you've developed Frankenstein's monster, right? This is why I mentioned that web development is a team effort. Each of these important processes, from sales to the customer to web development, should inform, reinforce, and enable one another, okay? Unity, as our president has put it. Now, I think it's time for another interactive polling question. So remember, you need to write down your answer. In fact, I'm going to put mine in the chat this time. And then at the end, we're going to do the polling. I'll make sure there's enough time, and then we'll go through everything. So here's a functional question. How often should you update your small business website? I get this question a lot from new clients. Okay, 1, daily. And hypothetically, that sounds great, but I hope you have the cheat code of show me the money. That's going to be very expensive, right? So B, weekly. I used to do that in industry, actually. Look, there's Casey on the board, weekly. He's going weekly. Haley's going monthly. Monthly, more reasonable for a new company, definitely. Annually, I don't think you're really putting enough heart and soul into it if you do it annually. Never at all. I suppose social media could be your hub. Or F, always. Okay. I'm putting always. And that seems very unreasonable. But hear me out here, okay? And I love the participation. I love that everybody's involved. Make sure later on you're going to cast your poll. So in all honesty, the answer for this one is actually it depends, okay? Because you see, the number of updates you can do on your website is dependent upon your resource and staffing levels. But here's a more interesting point. Imagine if I asked this question to your sales teams or your customers. What do you think they're going to say? I could tell you what they're going to frickin' say. They're going to say, if I'm going to waste my time going on your website, you better make sure it's always up to date, right? As they always want the most useful and relevant information about your business. How dare they? But to be honest with yourself, everyone in the world continues to want things from you. You're a small business owner. So you need to set your expectations accordingly. I think your answer actually should probably be design thinking from the customer's perspective, which is always. And I love it, Casey. You totally get it. You totally get it. But in the real world, you can't do always. So you got to figure out how you're going to do your second best. I love it. I love it. This is great. All right, let's keep going. You know, another common question that I get is, hey, Doug, is our website good enough? Well, already, like, what is good, right? I mean, traffic is usually what everybody thinks is good. But there are a variety of reasons that your website design elements may not be achieving your desired results. Okay, so let's talk through some of this. So one, conversion. Okay, conversion is user interactions that convert on from your website to new business. This should be your number one, actually. Like, that's what you want. Like, you don't want them to just fill out the stupid form. You don't want them to just click it. You want them to do something, right? So that should be your number one. Two, call to action, right? Well, if I can't get them to fill out and do something, at least get them to fill out their form or join my, stupid e-newsletter, right? Like my newsletter online, like join it, right? Yep, that's going to be high on the list. Uptime is another one. It's an important one because it's how difficult or how challenging is it for you to post an update? Like if you have a WordPress plugin, then any of your employees can go in and just update the website anytime they want. But if you don't, then it's like, well, I got to email a web developer and then there's an update a week later, right? That's tricky. So some additional elements I think you should talk to your web development team about is the following. Web friendliness, meaning that your website is searchable and is device agnostic, which is a sexy term, meaning it can work on any phone, any computer, it'll work, okay? Navigation isn't distracting. Interaction or interactivity, okay? That means like, how intuitive is it? Can people like understand what you're putting up there? Branding. Is there some visual consistency, meaning that there's familiarity, okay? That they look at you in one medium and then they know it's you in another, okay? And let me say this, don't overemphasize this too early, even though it's funny, it's coming from a marketing guy. That's an expensive proposition, okay? Visual design, that your layout and themes feel right. That's a touchy-feely word. So small business cannot be perfect at every design element. So you need to pick out the ones that are most important to you. I highlighted my favorites in orange here because it's a balance of function versus aesthetic design, and you need function. You gotta win and play the game. You gotta survive and stay alive. Next one, med props and respect to the web developers out there. I think there's probably some here or there's someone who will watch the recording. I think there are a few of you probably that even are small business owners and have web skills. I mean, the kind of front end tools you guys use, clearly your IQ is just way above mine, right? Small business owners need to be knowledgeable to get partners for good web development. I mean, even if you're blessed in web skill, the amount of time it takes to manage developer tools is unreal. You need to do your job, which is to lead your company, not build your website. So here's a list of essential tools and software programs that my own web teams use and some of my own personal network have used. I think when you shop around for vendors, you want to keep this list that I put in front of you that you can ask them, hey, what do you use for your version control systems? How do you do wireframing? What's your CMS platform? Because actually the CMS is how you can make updates like with WordPress or Dreamweaver or some platform you might know, right? So this is important for you to take away. My opinion, I think just stay focused on the risk reward of do it yourself versus getting help. You need to focus on what you do best is my comment. Oh, here we go again. That trickster Doug Younger is back in polling question number 3. Okay, let's reflect a bit and think about, what is your primary reason that you're dissatisfied with your website? Okay, is it the call to action? Like, nobody uses it, nobody clicks anything, and you know, actually, historically, that's a concern for even my company. They'll hear me say, nobody ever clicks anything, and you know that superlatives are not ever true. So people click it. It's just Doug's not satisfied, right? So B, update frequency. Maybe you don't like that everybody wants updates always, but you don't want to give in to peer pressure. You can't afford to do updates always, so you can't do that, right? Maybe it's conversion rate. This should be your favorite, okay? My opinion. Visual design. Is it cool or is it not? Technology tools. If your back end doesn't work right, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Or if it's completely unknown. Okay, so let's turn to the chat. Everybody cast their vote. What is their primary reason or the thing they're dissatisfied with their website? I'm going to go conversion rate all the way on this baby. Here we go. Okay, yep. So we got to see. So me and Isaac are thinking alike. Some people are thinking about it. It's okay to write unknown. Like, I just don't like it, and I don't know why. It's okay. Anybody else? Let's go for it. There's a couple C's. Don't just do it because I did that. Don't do it. Like, yeah, there we go. Okay, update frequency. Yeah, A and C for Haley and B for. Okay, there we go. Very good. Yeah, Casey just wants it to be sexy. Like, I like Casey. You're very good, man. Very good. Okay, so nobody wants to tell you that your baby's ugly. I don't mean that to Casey. I mean that to all of you. Okay, so you have to be honest yet objective with yourself about what feels wrong about your website. This goes back to this OGSM that I was telling you earlier. Write it down. This is what I don't like. And then now let's start taking some proactive measures with your web developer. Develop some projects and say, let's make a change. Okay? Okay. Next. Oh no. The site went down again, right? There's a broken hyperlink. We lost a huge RFP. Some random person posted a comment that they hate our website and that we suck. Doug, you suck, right? Get used to it. I told you, websites aren't perfect. It's going to happen. So you need to think about in your mind, what is the small business owner that you want to be? On the left, are you the small, tired business leader that reports to their web developer, I found a broken link on our freaking homepage. As you can see, she's exhausted, she's tired. It's the weight of the business, right? If your web developer is the means, the business owner is the ends, and the ends are stressful and all-encompassing, and it's wearing you down, right? But how actionable is I found a broken link on our homepage? Like, which link? Where, Doug? Where, right? So let's take the other small business leader on the right. I just like her disposition, right? She's rational, small business leader. At 2:24 a.m., I found a broken video URL on our homepage on Chrome while viewing on my iPhone X. Can this be fixed by tomorrow? Now, I admit it. I'm definitely, more often than not, the one on the left, not the one on the right. I mean, I strongly recommend for all of you to invest in systems like Jira, or have a chat room that your salespeople, or have a Google Doc that you would call your issues and actions log. This way, you have categories of when you observe something, you can qualify what you observed, okay? The goal here is for scalability, to seek transparency, and to issue closure in a reasonable time frame with all parties involved, okay? Next, on the question of, well, Doug, why don't I have more traffic, right? I mean, I spent big bucks on our website, right? Okay, you know, you have to invest time, money, and effort on SEO. And I'm going to get into this in more detail now. If you take one thing from today, SEO is worth your time. If you don't have an SEO client, software, if you don't have somebody working with you on it, get on this immediately. You know, in our sci-fi wormhole existence of reality, everything starts with Google. Think about that. It's kind of scary, actually, the amount of power that those guys have. Everything starts with search. You open up your webs, if you go to the web internet, like how are you finding things? I know you're not typing in www dot anymore, right? You just type in what you want. So search is a critical to quality design element for improving your website. There are a variety of tools, best practices, and people you can employ in this. I think most importantly, apply human-centric design thinking that we talked about earlier to your SEO key terms. No industry jargon. Describe your SEO key terms in ways your target customer could talk and perceive your business. My art team is even making fun of it right here on the left. You see where they're typing in all these different things, like how to find my company. Like, well, there's Douglas 3, there's Steps Forward, there's Marketing Company. And notice, we're not popping up for anything except when we type 3 steps forward. So this is a perfectly good example that, search is how people find you. This is the number one thing that you need to change and get rolling in your business. Next, let's talk about the flip side coin of search, which is SEM, and it's different. That's why I think the coin analogy is good. SEO is the unpaid side of the coin, and the other side is the paid aspect of it. See, SEM is actually a paid advertisement built to improve your search engine results. Good example of that, again, going back to the almighty master of the universe, Google, is Google Ads. Google Ads is a simple, cost-effective example of SEM. You pay for an ad that will run for a certain period of time and that you can modify for geo-targeting, meaning you kind of locationally know where your business is. Keyword matching for interest targeting, meaning what they like to do or hang out with. And most importantly, it's pay only per action or pay per click. This is a cost-effective thing for you. And think about it, like, you say, well, Doug, I hear about SEO, I don't hear about SEM. So WebFX, quite biasly, they have, they want you to do SEM. They actually ran some studies and they've learned that small to mid-sized businesses, over 65% of them spend up to $9,000 to $10,000 per month in SEM. That means their megaphone's louder than yours. They want people, when they type in certain words, they want to be found. And this is what you're up against. So if you're spending $0 on SEM right now, that's definitely not going to cut it. And it's definitely not in your best interest. There are a variety of benefits to SEM that I already talked about: pay-per-click, awareness, exposure. I'd encourage you to check out the blog article that I included, which is the top 10 benefits of SEM from Barry Tech. Okay. Oh, wow. We're moving along here. This is the second last interactive polling question. I kind of like these. I think everyone gets involved. Oh, no. The website went down again. Last time it was our bad, like a bad link. This time there's a hacker out there. Uh-oh. So depending how visible your business is or the industry you're in, you'll all have a range of experiences getting hacked. Okay, so next interactive polling question number 4, which is in crisis management. Has your small business website experienced any of the following? Okay, malware attack, or like a Trojan or a worm or spyware. Ransomware, meaning somebody did some threats to publish your data. Accidental file deletion. This is probably the reason I don't mess around with coding anymore. phishing attack. That's like someone pretending to be me. This one actually happened to me in my business, and somebody used my domain name, pretended to be me, and asked all my employees to buy Apple gift cards. What a hater. Data breach. It's clear. Employee sabotage. That's not just an HR actually issue. It can affect your website. DDoS attack. Somebody says, don't take it easy. Denial of service attack is what DDoS is. And this can actually slow your website way down. Basically, it's a ton of different IP addresses that are hitting your site, thousands all at once, and your site goes to a crawl because your client can't handle it. Then you have H, all the above, and I don't know. As in, the website team's job is to keep me from getting hacked, and I don't want to know. So, all right, so let's see what happens here. People are firing away here. We've got a few D's right out the bat, and somebody's going to wonder what Doug's talking about here. I'm going to put H, all the above. Okay, all right. Casey's in a D, Jessica's in a D. Who else? Come on. Don't be shy. Just throw it out there. Like if it didn't happen to you, just put, I don't know. All right. Okay, no more takers. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's some eyes. Yeah, I don't know. You know what that means? Let me tell you something. You know, bottom line, cybersecurity is about being proactive. Okay, so this means some of you that don't know, it means your web developer or your host client or whatever your software providers are doing their job. Okay, they're protecting your butt. So the truth is, all of us, though, need to take an interest in getting proactive. Protect your web systems from unauthorized attacks is a must. It's about growing your business and facing the world, achieving scalability. Okay. Next. So, how to get hacked like a champ. So, the goal to being a scalable small business, okay, is to work with your web team to identify and patch vulnerabilities is one thing you need to do. Next, you need to provide proactive protection. And there's off-the-shelf software to do this, which you can see there, malware scanning. We use Malwarebytes. There's all kinds of things for your computer, but then there's alternates for web development for cybersecurity. Invest in cybersecurity technology, okay? And make sure that your web developer or somebody on your team is reading forums about known threats that are out there. A lot of these attacks can be predictable. A lot of them run in rhythm with what's going on, like, you know, what's going on with TV, you know, somebody, you know, if you have a sports apparel store, don't be surprised when the Super Bowl comes on, you might get hacked, you know, because they hate one team. Okay. You know, I think the perfect analogy, my grandfather was a sergeant in World War II, actually. And his pinnacle lesson to me was, when at peace, prepare for war. So, you know, Tomas or Isaac, I'm going to pick on you guys. Just because you don't know if you're getting hacked doesn't mean you shouldn't start asking questions like, hey, wait, something could happen. What are you doing? What is the plan of action to make sure that I continue to not know that there's something there? So you need to have a discussion with your web developer. Okay, moving along. Let's get everybody involved the last time here. Interactive polling question number 5. It's the infamous ethical dilemma. I love these, okay? So in a universe of all possibilities, a small business could cover all design elements, and an important one I didn't mention called accessibility, which is important from a culture or humanitarian perspective. For our final interactive polling question, which of the following should be your web design priority related to accessibility for your small business? Motor dexterity impairment, somebody had lost a limb. Visual impairment, like if somebody were colorblind. Cognitive impairment support, like if somebody has like a you know, different method of thinking, right? Hearing related impairment, like if somebody's deaf. all the above, or unknown. And I love ethical dilemmas, so I want to see what everybody's going to do here. So let's see, what's Doug's vote here? Like, I'm going to go with like, everybody's going all the above. I'm going to say F, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. Listen, I want you to know this. One of our brilliant design interns, her name's Benicia, came at me and talked to me about accessibility guidelines for the disabled. And I actually said, after an entire career, I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I've seen the colorblind thing, but like, could we do more? She goes, oh yeah. So there's actually no right answer here. I actually applaud the culture of all of you to at least acknowledge, when now you've been prompted, that your website, you got to consider that some of your customers want to interact with you and they have special needs, right? They do. And if I were to further go on here, those special needs, let's be honest, you could say, well, they're a minority, but the truth is green, right? And we're all universally equal in that. So diversity, inclusion, and accessibility on your website can be a competitive advantage. Actually, a lot of you don't know, there are web accessibility guidelines and standards to help your teams be inclusive to all potential people that are navigating online, even those with potential disabilities. Obviously, this is not the majority. And obviously, you've got to manage your budget. But you got to understand, acknowledging this and meeting certain standards can pass for positive tonality, meaning the positive perception of your business. And at the end of the day, we didn't all just do this just to make money. It's important though. But if we didn't make the world a better place, then we could just go get a job somewhere else, right? So I'm not going to lecture you further about it, but accessibility is a critical, interesting point that all of you acknowledge, but did you do something about it? It's something you need to think about, okay? So being respectful of time, and of course I want to have more questions. As a small business owner, it is your responsibility to build a web development engine that is consistent, evolving, and scalable. And for you Snowpiercer fans out there looking forward to this new episodes that are coming out, this web development train engine that you have has got to be fully spec'd out. First of all, develop a web strategy with clear objectives, goals, and measures. 2, develop a process that is iterative and human-centric with inputs from sales and customers. Gotta love those guys. 3, have the appropriate form of reference for customer orientation for visual storytelling, written storytelling, service descriptions, and SEO. Remember, it's not about you. Ask your web developer about tools and how you can prepare to be scalable for security and back-end performance like SEO. Seek out those missing design elements in your existing website, right? It's like Pokemon, you gotta catch them all. Collect and give actionable feedback, as web development is a team effort. Transparency and accountability is shared. 7, and lastly, employ traditional design thinking in all aspects of web, including human-centered design, learning, testing, repeating, writing. It's all the above. Become your customer, okay? Your business, at the end of the day, is your story. Tell your story well on your website or nobody will visit, okay? So with that, we're going to transition to questions and answers. And Katie, don't worry about the poll. I think we've kind of made our point in the chat. Everybody had fun there. And I appreciate all the audience participation here. So if anybody has a question, you can either put your question in the chat, or you can be brave and unmute and just ask the question to Doug directly. Like, don't worry, I don't bite. Like, at the end of the day, like this is time for you all. So any questions? I have example ones that the art team built into the little animation here. So if you want to use those, that's okay. Any questions?
Doug, I have a question actually. For someone starting a website that's not obviously like budget is usually a thing with small businesses, especially if you're just starting, don't have a ton of capital. What
Yep.
is the best like website hosting besides like a GoDaddy or the obvious ones that is most cost effective? And like, what's your first couple of steps if you're just building your website like day one? What do you think is the best advice you could give somebody on where to do it and like what to start with?
Yeah. So starting on the journey, okay, there's a lot of planning that I would recommend up front, right? Like a couple things will be, by your question, you've already decided on, what you want to write. You got to start with, first of all, domain name. Okay. You got to lock it in. Are you .io? Are you .com? Like, right? Like your .net, like you got to start with that, right? Okay. Then next you're going to say, okay, I need to host it. And there's a variety of tools that are out there. There's WP Engine, and there's like through Google, there's a lot of them. You already mentioned like some as well, but a lot of those will be, there's things that you can buy off the shelf that you can use, or there are clients that have a lot more force or power that your web developer would use. I think the starting point for me is to understand a little bit about what type of traffic patterns that you're expecting, because the amount of people, like what they would call visitors or sessions per day, is what's going to drive what a lot of off-the-shelf choices you're going to make, and that's going to affect your budget. So my thought there is lock up your domain name. Definitely consider looking at trends of other sites that are out there. And, whether you look at Google Analytics, you use third-party media surveillance software to look at like, what's traffic look like. And then you can start to choose, okay, what's the most cost-effective solution for you to manage or for your web developer to manage? But I think what you could see here, like, all of you are different range of abilities and reference starting points of how much of your website you want to manage yourself. My opinion on that, man, if you really know some amazing web developers, you got to go with them. Like, there's just stuff that they know that you don't. And then not only that, like, you should be running your business, right? Like, so that, I think that's kind of my thought process on that. Great question. Great question. And that's a Gulls question, by the way, guys. Like, you gotta love the San Diego Gulls, man. Like, I'm hoping that I could actually do business with the KC and the San Diego Gulls in the future. Hint, hint. So, okay. So who else? What other questions out there? Are you using Google Analytics? Yes, no? Who's using it?
We have a question in the chat box.
Oh, there's another one? Okay. Do you think there's a different approach to web design or strategy for a nonprofit org rather than a small business? Oh, wow. So I love that special place of the nonprofit world. Some of you don't know, I started my career at the Cleveland Clinic, which is a nonprofit. And I actually was the executive director of a gun violence prevention group named Affirm Research. So nonprofits are a special place for me. I 100% yes think you're onto something. The frame of reference, Haley, for a nonprofit is that you want people to come to your site to do certain things, and it's a different audience. Here's a good example. There's people that do commerce that have products that they sell, and that would be like e-commerce. Like, do you want someone to buy something on your site? There's other people that will come to your site that, if you're a service, is like they could become a potential client, which means they're going to want to check out your services and interact with you. Nonprofits, remember, fundraising or getting people to get aligned with what would be your strategic plan, or getting in line with your theory of change, means that there's a certain subset of people that you're looking to find. So my opinion actually is, I don't think the web design part is going to be different for you, even though the audience is different. I personally think my answer is the SEO key term approach you use and the SEM paid search criterias you use will be more for those that are either foundations, they're into philanthropy, they're into, community orientation. I would say more of the SEO, SEM, key search terms, which means that your meta key terms and your keywords that are built into the site need to be more for that minded of a person and not somebody that's here to buy some Nike shoes. So I'd say that is the aspect of design that would be different. But all things should still apply of like, you know, don't use jargon terms, right? Like you need like visualizations that represent them. You need good written storytelling, visual storytelling. That's true for anybody. But I really do think the nuanced detail will be in your SEO, SEM. I will make another comment for nonprofit, now that you mentioned it, is that you want to make sure that your Guide Star, Better Business Bureau, like these sort of profiles are built, and they're also built into your SEO, because actually Guide Star and kind of like how you're registered as a nonprofit, that you have to have public disclosures of like, you know, your documents and your tax things and stuff like that. There's people that look for that, and that's stuff for search that's unique. That's a way you can identify like certain audiences. So great question. That's from Haley. Okay, very good, Haley. What other questions do we have? I think that answers your question, right, Haley?
If you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I got you, Isaac. Loud and clear.
Okay, so my quick question here is, how did you find your web developer, and any tips on finding a developer?
Oh, how did I find a web developer? Very good. So honestly, Isaac, I think now because of the web world that LinkedIn and Yelp are, first of all, essential starting points, because let's say this, if you go to LinkedIn, there's a lot of web developers that may be 6 degrees separated from people in your social network. As a result of that, you can then ask those other people like for recommendations or feedback. Because look, anybody can put lipstick on a pig, right? You can go to the web developer and say, hey, just show me some examples of your site. Well, their examples will be phenomenal. But let's say this, maybe the bedside manner is not complementary with your interests, right? Like, and by that, I mean, you know, maybe they're all technical and they can't speak normal English. Like, that's not good. Like, you know, if you can't understand them, that's a problem. So you really, I want to emphasize personal network is a great starting point. Maybe you don't know a web developer, but somebody you know, most likely out of 6 degrees of separation in LinkedIn, will know. Third, you can go to different, you know, sites like Yelp or other things. And, you know, what you can do is just put in a chat, like, I'm looking for a web developer. And you know what? Let them come to you, right? Like, that's the pull strategy. You could say, hey, I'm going to put out an ad, or I'm going to go to the newspaper and just go look at you know, the classifieds and say, I need to find someone. I think that's a little more risky because just about anybody will show up. I would say, I think also the rise of Reddit and Tumblr is another way you can go and start to see discords and discussion about certain sites that are cool, and this is why, and this is the tools they use. I also think there's a lot of veteran web developers that are bloggers. And actually, you'll see in some of the topics related to SEO in my presentation today that there's a guy there that blogs about everything. And he's also rated as one of the top SEO consultants out there. His last name's Patel. So I also think looking for footprints, healthy footprints of strong developers is another one. But again, this all goes back to budget too, right? So it's, do you go with a web development company? Do you go to like a full service group like my company where we kind of do everything? Do you go to, you know, your college roommate or your college buddy that can help you out? I mean, you know, a lot of that depends upon your particular situation, but I hope that gives you some context as to how I would break down and go after finding someone.
Thank you.
Great question, Isaac. Okay, what else I got here? Don't be shy. I'm done picking on people though, so you're safe there.
I think there was a question in the chat from Rosemary.
Oh.
It was just above.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so Rosemary, what's the most common website issue error you see with small businesses. Ooh. So you mean not even like metrics, like fail, like just like failed problems. Yeah, I'll comment on this one. Okay. Everybody overemphasizes focus on traffic and they don't focus on conversion. It's one thing to have, let's say 10,000 visitors in a certain quarter. It's another thing out of that 10,000, how many of them actually convert to real business? And this is for a variety of reasons, okay? One, your call to action or your form, and I think that's my number 2 is like forms. And by forms, guys, what I mean is somebody logs on a site, they click contact us, they're required to put in their first name, last name, email address, and some description of what they want, okay? First of all, people hate forms because they're like, no, you're going to spam my email address. Secondly, people are just, I don't know, they're more sensitive about putting in their information. So to get them to put in their information, the number one thing that you got to do is add value. So don't just put a blank form, my opinion. What you consider is your pinnacle asset. What I mean by that is if that's a return on investment, if it's your brochure, if it's a case study, if it's like on Yelp, you're number 1 ranked or something like that, make sure you put that on your form. Because if you put that on your form, hopefully they're going to see that number 1 pinnacle asset has value to them, that you can kick butt and do whatever it is they want you to do. And then they're more likely to fill out your form. That's one. And that's conversion related, right? I think another one that is a classic killer for small businesses is that they focus so much on their product or widget and they focus so much on themselves is that they are not clear about who the product's for, right? It's kind of like, it's the engineer's dilemma. Like, if I build it, they shall come is your assumption. Nope, doesn't work like that. Even the greatest of engineering-based companies, like Apple, frankly, yeah, they spend a crap ton of money on marketing. So one comment that I can make here is, yes, you have to write about your services. Yes, you have to write about your products, but you got to do it in the language that your customers use for what they're looking for. Because if you get that right, when they're looking for you in SEO, they're going to find you. Okay. Good question, Rosemary. You guys are asking really good questions. They're from the heart, right? These are experience related questions. I can tell, like, you guys are out there trying things, right? Like, what else we got here? Any other questions? Speed. Nobody talked about site performance. How about mobile users? How many, like, are you, so here's a good question. Is your website primarily intended to be viewed on mobile or on desktop? Have you asked yourself that question? Have you really thought about it? Like, you say, well, what does that mean, Doug? It means, is it intended for them to be in their office at 9 a.m. on their desktop, double tasking or like trying to do like work and they're cheating and looking at your website? Or is it that you want them in the car and they're on the work commute at 7 a.m. and they're like bored and they're in traffic and they kind of cheat and look at their phone, which is not safe, by the way, but they do it? What's the dominant use case you're designing for is kind of my comment there. Like, are you guys thinking about that? Is your site designed for mobile or desktop? Can you answer that? It's a rhetorical question, obviously, but I think that's something you guys need to think about. Okay. What's the primary use case that somebody is going to be at your site? Like if you're a restaurant, right? Like it's going to be around dinner time, right? They can DoorDash it. They can get off their butts and get in the car and go pick it up. Are they doing that on their phone or are they on their computer? Are they at work before going home and they're going to order it and then go pick it up? I mean, you got to think about the use case there. Okay. Is there any other questions? If not, I'm going to shut it down. It's your time. Maybe that's it. Okay. So we had another great session. My comments here are, please pass positive or negative feedback to the San Diego Chamber. There's Katie Tran there. You can see her in the chat there. There she is. Okay. Did we do good today? Did you learn something? Is this Doug guy an idiot? Like, just express your feedback. That's important. And, you know, from the heart, I truly believe this is going to be our year, guys. We're in this together. For small business owners, 2020 is gone. Yeah, it was challenging right out the gate. But to be honest, we're going to make it, right? We're going to make it together. You're going to have a great website. All right. Thank you, guys. I think Tomas wanted to say something. Did you want to say something before I shut it down?
Yeah, thank you very much. I learned a lot. I was really appreciating this session. So I will keep in contact with you again.
Yeah, and you stay warm with that adult beverage. And once this COVID thing's done, I'm coming to Sweden to visit you, my friend.
No, you're most welcome, or opposite.
Great. You're always welcome. You know your family. Okay, see you guys. Bye-bye.
See you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.